With its initial release in 2007, Monster Hunter Frontier has brought out some of the craziest monster designs imaginable, some of which were later introduced into the mainline games like Volcano Fish Lavazioth, Mr. Hypno Chicken Hypnocatrice, and of course the latest revival of Sleepy Joe Espiness. While a lot of the Frontier designs are too far gone from what is considered adequate for a mainline title, there are exceptions to the rule. Now, roughly 4 years after shutting down of Frontier servers, we still see parts of the Monster Hunter community asking, if not begging, for Capcom to bring some of these monsters back. I too have picked out some monsters I'd like to see a return of, so let's get into it. Those of you that have seen my last video about Monster Hunter World may remember the part where I said I started my Monster Hunter journey with Freedom Unite on the PSP. This might explain the first monster to grace the list due to its obvious similarities to one of Freedom Unite's flagships. Theorexia is a member of the Tigrex family, proficient in grounded combat and known for its viciousness. And while Tigrex is known for being weak to thunder element, Theorexia is the complete opposite, being a master at generating electricity within organs located throughout its body to then magnetize surrounding ore in its habitat for use as armor. While the regular skin of Theorexia is a pale grey, the magnetized bits of ore now covering its body give it a bluish tint and striking glowing accents to further signal combat readiness. This monster is not just agile and strong like its cousin Tigrex, it also possesses the ability to charge up ore-filled rock and throw it at any incoming danger such as monsters or even hunters. Theorexia can also freely form the environment around it to create vantage points or hinder enemy movement. Using their strong electric charges stored inside their bodies, they are able to send out shockwaves to further deter any would-be dangers to the monster. The armor crafted out of Theorexia material looks amazing, making you look like a blue mecha Power Ranger, and the weapons of course match the aesthetic, even adding the glow found on the monster itself. When it comes to Monster Hunter, most of us enjoy the garish, edgy designs of equipment, but some of us, myself included, also really like the cute and goofy outfits. Just take a look at these armor sets and tell me you don't need this right now. The monster you can craft those out of is none other than Pokaradon. A giant water-spitting chonk who's too cute to hunt if you ask me. While it's very similar to Royal Ludroth in gameplay, the design alone is enough for me to want it back in a future Monster Hunter title as maybe like a first wall kind of monster. As already mentioned, Pokaradon mostly uses attacks also used by Royal Ludroth, but somewhat improved versions of them. Other original attacks include pouncing while clapping their flippers together, creating sounds so loud they can stun hunters, or ripping chunks of ice out of the ground and smashing them to let smaller chunks of ice rain down on its enemies. These monsters aren't just fierce and territorial, they also have a softer side to them as they are often seen playing with their families and bonding with offspring. While I do enjoy cool looking monsters, there is a serious lack of cute and quirky looking ones to ground the rosters of Monster Hunter. Also, before you mention it, seal clubbing jokes don't work since this monster was based on a walrus. We all know the power couple that is Lunastra and Teostra, don't we? They are known for their fiery ferocity as well as being cutesy lovely dovies, but what if I told you there is a monster with a heart as cold as ice, constantly trying to separate them? Well, I don't know if that is really the monster's motive, but hey, let me create some drama for the story's sake, okay? The next monster on the list is the Frozen King Dragon, Towa Tezcatora. Looking at this monster, we could speculate that it was at the very least an inspiration for Valkana, both being ice elder dragons and all that. Towa is in fact an ancestor of Teostra and Lunastra, bearing striking similarities to them except for the frigid theme and forward-facing horns made out of ice. Instead of breathing fire, Towa spews out winds cold enough to freeze water and organic material on the spot. Towa's powder can create chunks of ice for it to drop them and crush its opponents. Found in snowy and frigid places, this monster is mostly preoccupied with surviving than fighting, making it somewhat less hostile than its descendants. But should you get into combat with it, you should be prepared for the storm that is coming. The weapons and armor also look great, especially the sword and shield with its swept back handguard and spiked pommel. I'd really like to see this one come back since I love Lunastra and Teostra, and this would spice things up a little. Everybody loves monkeys. And while we've seen a couple primates in Monster Hunter like Rajang or the most recent addition Bishatin, there is still enough wiggle room for more ape-like creatures to be featured in the games. Enter Gogomoa, a literal spider monkey. Gogomoa is able to produce a spider silk-like substance, using it to directly restrain the hunter or to throw random stuff at them like poisonous plants or chunks of rock. Using its silk, the Gogomoa is also able to swing around the trees and pounce on any enemies in its range. And being so athletic, the Gogomoa is really a force to be reckoned with. These monsters are pretty chill in general, rarely causing any problems as they spend their time swinging around the trees, sleeping and eating fruits. But should one encounter a Gogomoa currently taking care of their offspring, one should be very careful not to get too close. Especially female Gogomoas are fiercely protective of their young, and will even enter a berserker-like rage if you hurt their little mini-me. One mechanic of the fight that is both interesting and hilarious is that you can cut the Gogomoa's web while it's preparing to web sling. If you manage to do so, the monster will trip, leaving themselves open for a beating. The weapons and armor crafted from Gogomoa material are some of my favorite designs coming out of Monster Hunter Frontier. The wild berserker look really makes you feel like you're a hunter in tune with nature itself. The last monster on the list is something we rarely see in Monster Hunter. Weapons and armor made from Shantan materials aren't exactly my favorite, and I'd strongly prefer them to get some kind of redesign if Capcom decides to bring this monster back. Yet the fight more than makes up for it. The Shantan is an elder dragon, resembling depictions of dragons of Eastern origin, complete with propulsionless flight capabilities and elemental control unlike any other. The manner in which Shantan can fly without having wings is by electrically charging collected air particles and releasing them. The Shantan is able to control fire, water, and thunder elements, as well as inflict paralysis on the hunter. When looking at Shantian's fight, you can clearly see that the model and some of its moves are those of an underwater leviathan. And since I really like Tri and its water combat, this makes me feel kind of at home. And not only can this monster control 3 different elements, it also seems to create violent storms at will, raising their intensity as it gets more and more frustrated. The fight will get progressively harder as the Shantan starts to fight with more and more bloodlust, with every second it remains in combat with the hunter. In the fight's last act, the Shantan will bring down the airship you are fighting on, making you crash onto a volcanic zone. Here the Shantan can control its fire element to an absurd degree, unleashing ferocious attacks upon the hunter. But it also has a drawback that, if already heavily damaged, the Shantan might charge up for an attack so powerful that it instantly kills itself, bringing the hunt to an end. These are just a couple of the monsters I'd like to see back in Monster Hunter. And with Hypnocrates, Aspiness and others already having seen an outing in a main series Monster Hunter game, the chances are pretty high that we'll get at least a couple more Frontier monsters in the future. I really hope that Capcom either gives us these monsters back or somehow revamps Frontier and makes it international. That would be just perfect. And as always, remember to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this on my channel. That's it for today. Bye bye.